Greetings, everybody. Hello, inquirers. Happy Q&A Tuesday. So someone asked a question just yesterday. They had been listening to Byron Katie facilitate somebody through the work on cancer. I think the woman actually had metastatic cancer, so it looked like the diagnosis was death. And she was listening to this process of Byron Katie facilitate the person in the midst of all that, looking like that was underway in this person's life. And I mean, it was underway in this person's life. And the question was, there was a term that Byron Katie used, and I've heard it myself, that the universe is friendly, and that this doesn't look so friendly. This looks like, hardship, suffering, pain, agony, really, to watch that suffering, not just cancer, but other ailments and disease and difficulty. And many people might be here, you might be here because of the difficulty of compulsion and experiencing some kind of addiction or constant, regular, compulsive behavior that looks very much like it's not working in your life, and it causes a lot of shame and hardship. All the addictions, all of our way that the mind gets really busy with what is and what's happening, and very down on ourselves, self-sabotage for sure. So it just is really interesting to look at that and see then the mind would do it too, it's like it'll look and say, okay, so somebody mentions in this world, is it a friendly universe? I mean, could this be okay that this is happening? Or there might be a benefit to whatever's going on here. It might be that it's good instead of bad and evil. And that just is enough to make the mind wobble, or like even kind of collapse, or even feel very, very defensive. And I think it looks like there's a place for that, right? Because and if our thinking mind is here to help us survive and succeed and thrive, not just survive, physically. I mean, touch a hot stove, run like an immediate, or, navigate through the world without the body getting injured or hurt. Of course, don't we want that? I mean, of course, the mind, it's installed for that purpose, it looks like. It doesn't want to have anything get injured or hurt. And then it also looks like everybody ages and everything changes. And no matter what, there's going to be this temporary experience of being alive, even if we live until we are literally like 105 or 107 years old, like my husband's aunt. That's a very, very, very long life. So there was still an end that came at some point. And then, I just noticed this idea of we want it to be as long as possible, and as peaceful as possible, and as easy as possible, and to not have anything looks like it's imposing, and to not have anything hurt too much. I mean, the vision of a long life, and if we're talking about like the body and things surviving, looks like dying at age 100 plus in the human condition, surrounded by friends and family, peacefully just going to sleep and not waking up in the morning, or something like that, and never having your loved ones or close ones, like your children or people who are younger, die before you. We never would want that. It's just like everyone should have this long, full life, and that's what's good. And anything short of that is bad. I like seeing, of course, thought, personal thought would be in there, and we don't really even want to change that necessarily. So if I say, I want that to be removed because it's causing suffering or causing difficulty or hardship in some way, I want that to be taken out. I want this compulsion or this suffering. I want cancer. I want something, I want that to be gone. I want that tendency to think that particular way to just get wiped out. Who knows what would happen if we're not, kind of like against dying. There's just a survival mechanism that I think, at least I'm seeing as I look at this um, concept, about life and approaching life and when things have happened, like cancer. I remember my own experience of getting a diagnosis of cancer, and I'll tell you about in a second. But it's just looking at all that is underway, and I wouldn't necessarily think, I hope that all gets completely wiped out and changed, and I just delight and love every minute of it, because who knows, I might not, what if I don't take my hand off quickly when I touch the hot stove? If I think it's all great, there'll be some sort of passivity there, or something that won't avoid death and pain and hardship. If I'm climbing down a mountain on a steep trail, I'll just run and not give a care for where my footsteps fall. I won't be careful, I suppose, in any way. I'll lose that element that says a prolonged life is more fun and better and more wonderful. But I love that. I mean, I started wondering, like, wait, is that true? If I don't grip and hold on to life and to making sure that I'm safe, is that a function of my thought? Is my mind really the one in charge of all that? It's very interesting. And looking at what some people do and others don't, and just watching in the human condition what people are interested in. So in any case, speaking of cancer, which this person's question came out of, like just observing it in somebody that they love so much, having cancer. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and the doctor, I had this large kind of mole, but it was a strange, completely skin tone, not dark or black or anything, or just the color of my skin, the exact same color. And it just seemed to be growing and growing, and then actually protruding out of my thigh. And that went on for probably a year. And I went to the doctor, and it turned out to be a sarcoma, like a tumor was growing, and it was cancer. When I first found out that it was cancer, right in the doctor's office, the doctor said something like, it was right, I had a biopsy of it, as they do, and it required a couple stitches to stitch up from after the biopsy. And I came back to get the stitches out, and the doctor said, we'll just get dressed again, and then I'm going to return and we'll talk about the results of the biopsy. And just the way she said it, I had this huge adrenaline rush course through my body. She didn't even use the word cancer yet. I mean, I suddenly was like, could pick up naturally on, she didn't say, it's great news, it's completely benign, there was nothing there. I knew there was something. And the adrenaline was amazing. It just shot through my entire system. Oh no, oh no. And pictures and feelings mostly were coursing through me. The doctor came back and informed me that's cancer. And here's what needs to happen from this point forward. So there's a treatment plan. There's an operation to cut the thing out. Actually, when I look back on it, and even kind of during the middle of it, the whole thing was so short that it was kind of mild in the big scheme of things, because it was something that could be completely cut out. So I didn't even need follow-ups and radiation or anything like that. But the feeling inside initially had been of alarm and emergency, and the personal interest in survival and not suffering, of course, was alive and just skyrocketing in there. This might be threatened. My life might be threatened in this moment. Amazing thing to sit with. I wrote a worksheet on cancer, which is, if you've never heard of the Work of Byron Katie, or here you are, you writing down all your thoughts about your objections to a condition or a situation or a person or something that's gone down. And I wrote my thoughts down about cancer. And one of the things I wrote down was, I don't ever want to die of cancer. I don't ever want to have cancer again. I don't ever want it to return into my life ever again. And one way that's suggested as we look at that kind of thinking and that kind of resistance and defense and like sort of attack on cancer, fight cancer, is to turn it around and just wonder, could I be okay if cancer returned? I mean, we certainly are not in charge. There's things that we can do perhaps that would enhance. I mean, we're humans, and like tons of people are studying and looking at longevity and disease and what's happening. We're fascinated with everything that goes on there. Cancer being one of them, I mean, just research and collecting data and information and noticing. So from that, we can kind of say, okay, looks like it might be good to move more in this direction than that direction. With all the things, that looks good. And still, there are no guarantees whatsoever. I've had the thought, if it grows once, it can grow again. So very, very possible. Doesn't seem to have been happening. Oh, it has happened. I've had skin ailments that they've removed, but they haven't frightened me. Not very much, at least. So they always seem to be non-life threatening. And that's why they don't frighten me, because it doesn't look like my actual life is threatened in the moment. And yet, every day that I'm alive is another day passing and another day closer to death. So it is kind of true that this threat, if you want to call death a threat, is getting closer. If in time, you question time, you question death, question all of it. But that idea, so there's a way to turn this around. So I had this sentence that can say, I don't ever want to get this again. And it's okay it's okay if I do. And just to sit with that a moment and kind of be open about it, kind of soften around the edges of it, relax. And this can even be applied to something like we think we hate so much, like compulsion, addiction, this thing that I've done with food and eating, or with alcohol, with biting my nails. I hate it, says our minds. I want it gone. If I had the power to kind of take these points of suffering, or these things that look threatening to my emotional life, my physical life, my psychic life in some way, all of it, if I had the power to get rid of those, I would, and I'm on it. I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of them. Even the belief in like evil energy and spirits and all of it. I want it out. There's a battle going on here. I want to get rid of it. I will never look at that thing like it's welcome here. I've decided already that it's wrong. And that's the way I'm seeing the world. And I won't consider that it could be safe enough or okay enough or relaxed or anything about that. I won't consider that I'm okay, even if that exists in the world, even if that I'm having this experience. And that's all right if it feels like there's something that, I won't be okay until I no longer binge eat. I won't be okay until the cancer is gone. I won't be okay until this other sickness or ailment is absent. I won't be okay because this terrible event happened. Like that other person died, or somebody was violent with me, or I had this other traumatic experience. It is not ever, at least what worked for me around considering all of this, that, I am actually okay, is noticing that it's true that I am. I mean, even though I went through all that, here I am, and something is still okay. And I could even ask, so is physical survival make me okay? Is it that I didn't die and that equals okayness? It certainly is true for our minds and for thought, and that's all right that that's there. That I could feel, there was this question by the listener, by the person interested in doing the work, interested in questioning their thoughts. Like, am I supposed to be happy with cancer or think that it's a good thing and that it's actually supporting me? Of course not. There's no supposed to. There's no supposed to. Are you condoning violence and rape and torture and wars and, starvation and all the things that look so terrible in the human condition? Of course not. Yeah. I'm saying they are fantastic. Let's hope for more of them, more of this addiction, more addictive behavior and suffering. Of course not. But it does look like all of that is underway somehow. And I know, what I really learned by Katie's invitation about questioning our profound concepts about life and kind of what we decide and how we see it is when I am arguing with reality. So when I'm looking at it like I'm being done to, I'm a victim of this terrible thing, an absolute and total victim. I noticed that even though the body and my thigh had a cancerous tumor on it, my thigh was not really arguing with reality. The primary thing that was arguing and didn't like it was my thinking. So let's say that's all right. So my thoughts are really interested in me surviving as long as possible. But almost everything else wasn't arguing with it. And I was missing all of that. Really the rest of my body, my thigh, maybe some other people weren't so happy with this, who cared about me and want me to have a prolonged life. But mostly, all the people around were, having their own experience and their own life. Was I fundamentally still just present and here and noticing? Yes, I was. I also really like noticing eventually there's going to be a major transition called death. And if it isn't like evil, boy, and it's no surprise that we would look at it as so evil. It's like in all the movies, it's this thing coming with a sickle and it's going to take you away, and it's just so terrible. But we don't even know for sure if that's true. Like, it's just this major transition, it looks like, from in this form of the body. It looks like life is just doing what it does. It just keeps getting reborn. Somebody sent me a video of a horse giving birth. And to be honest, I'd never really seen that before. And I was just fascinated at this horse giving birth and watching, what happens, and just considering and thinking about like this amazing thing where, a copy of whatever the organism is built within, but it has its also own uniqueness. And then it's kind of split out. I mean, kind of comes out of that organism. It's made within it through the process of whatever we're calling birth. And it looks painful, physically painful, but it also looks like the animal just does it. Same in humans. And then there's a new copy of this thing, and that new organism, entity, body, person, is beginning in life and kind of there again, just like the one before it has been having this experience. It's kind of amazing that we can have a mind that watches and has this experience of having a life and having a birthday, and knowing that we're underway and how old we are, and that we can never ever be 10 years old again if we aren't 10 years old now. So much has died and fallen away already. Our own childhood, perhaps everything, places that we used to live, relationships that we once had, jobs that we've experienced. Things are constantly falling away. And things are also staying very, very present, and new things are coming in. There's constant movement. So there'll be this transition at some point out of the body. And what if that is the way of it, and I'm willing to not argue with it? It can look like I don't want it, and that's all right. It can look like these things in the human condition I don't want. I don't want my compulsion. I don't want this addictive process. But I just noticed when I felt so much fear and hatred for the thing, like thinking it is horrific, so terrible, so evil, then my whole world begins to be full of this thing happening, and my whole body is full of adrenaline and upset, and I'm kind of exacerbating the whole thing. I had this client once who was just incredibly concerned about energies, unseen energies, and her whole world was full of objection to these unseen, dangerous energies. There was good energies and bad energies, but it looked like mostly bad because of this immense focus on bad, wrong, terrible energies. And it looked like that was becoming almost everything that she thought about, was how to get away from those. And we'll do the same exact thing with ailments, or how to get away from cancer and get rid of it, how to get away from addiction and compulsion and get rid of it. And no matter how much we're thinking about all that, I just keep noticing inside myself. That's all I can say, is keep noticing when I'm in there and I'm in a battle and I'm having a war and I'm fighting and I'm doubling down and using willpower and pushing and forcing. I'm just really participating in this great, I keep participating in this great war. I'm so against it. And I'm the one who suffers. And it may or may not look like the thing that's happening changes, that thing that's underway. So I love that in self-inquiry, this process of self-inquiry, Byron Katie might use her own words. You have to find your own. Really, you don't have to say, this is a good thing that this is happening. This is amazing and wonderful. No one needs to do anything, it's never condoned. And just to see, though, that how incredibly resilient we are when we sit in the absence of our thoughts about it, the absence of our decisions, This is absolutely true that it's the wrong thing to be happening, and it's um, hardship and something I need to fight. If I let go of that, I love noticing what I like about what's happening, even if it's not the thing, that I'm still full of love. I still see the trees outside and the wind blowing. I'm still able to take in the beauty of the world and a flower and animal. It's not wiping out everything. It's just there's deep appreciation for what is actually here without the focus of what's here that I want to gone. And I notice that it can't threaten any of that. I notice that with compulsion and addiction, we'll often say things like, I suffered for X amount of years, 35 years, 50 years. This has never been gone. And I like noticing there's all these minutes and hours where it wasn't present. When we were sleeping at night, when we were having a deep conversation with a friend or a family member, when we were noticing a sunset, or just the beauty and the mystery of life. There was other things. We were busy. We were doing something else. We were working on a project. There's just all these minutes, far more minutes than actually being inside in the middle of our story or our panic or our fear. Those things all pass. I like seeing that the fear that I've had, like that geyser of adrenaline that came when I found out that I had cancer, it was fading by the time I was even walking out of the doctor's office. And it would get re-triggered and I'd be awake and I'd be nervous, but then it would fade down again. It wasn't staying 10 out of 10. And it actually never was up to the same level as the first time I heard. Never. I mean, how interesting to notice that. So, what if I could trust that whatever's happening, it's okay, that there are also good and wonderful things that are happening, and even to turn my attention towards those. Not that I have to, not that that's a requirement, but it sure does feel more friendly and kinder, more open, more relaxed and gentle to notice what's here, what's present, that is beautiful, and that love is still here. Or that just the life force itself is still here, even if you think, I feel no love at all. Like that it's just, here I am in this experience of life in this moment, the way it is now, and all is well in with, the chair and the floor. I don't know, just whatever you can actually find. It's just nice to see that it's way less black and white. There's way less need to take a side and, get so tight with it and push so hard. In that, all I can say is in that, I've noticed it really is okay, whatever happens. There's so much rest and relaxation in that. What if we could relax on whatever it is that's happened and not try to solve the problem and not try to attack what's wrong or grab what's good? And it's all right if the mind is very busy with all of that, but who am I without my story? What's happening here without the story? So I don't have to use the word friendly if I don't like that word and it doesn't look that way. That would be making up something that isn't true for me in the moment. But I noticed that I became really willing to look at what's here that also is not suffering. Is there something here that isn't suffering? Is there a quietness? Right? I noticed that The bed that I'm lying on when I have cancer is not suffering. So where is the suffering located? You're just noticing the space that whatever this thing is that we think is evil comes into. How accepting and open that space is. How present, gentle, and yet very, very, very strong and very steady and very profound, even powerful that space is. Maybe that's where, in that space, all the answers that I'm seeking actually lie, that the mind is seeking. So, yeah, do I have to consider that this is friendly and that it's a good thing for me? Of course not. I'm just open to inquiry, though. I've been very open to inquiry because I can really see my thinking and how much it brings more suffering and just really enhances the story of suffering and makes me begin to solve the problems of suffering. And it never really quite works. So I like the relief and the rest of not being so involved in that personal thinking and allowing things to be as they are and just trusting just a little bit. There's some kind of intelligence here that has nothing to do with my personal mind that's running itself. I am not the creator of the universe in the greater scheme of things, but I am the responder to whatever reality looks like, and I'm the one experiencing what I'm calling reality in the moment personally, and that I can question it. It can become entirely different in a split second, as fast as a thought. I like the idea. I'm only one question away from peace. And we don't even have to have a question and answer. Peace is present here. And just look around. That might be a good way to leave this one, because it's a very profound question, a very big one, is so notice your mind saying there is no peace here in this situation, in this condition, when this kind of thing happens. There's no peace, zero. Is it true? Let's see if you can find anything that represents peace in that situation, condition, dynamic. Does anything represent peace? I mean, there has to be some, it's like the space that the thing comes into that looks so dangerous. That's peaceful. So at least that's where I go. And it starts to be really sort of fun and interesting to look and see what my evidence of peace is, even though that difficult thing has happened. All right, let me know how it goes. Lots of love.